I want to pivot to a topic that you've also been quite vocal about, and that is the curtailing or the I guess the yours your stance against the consumption of pornography or the curtailing, not the banning of pornography. I actually read your piece on feministcurrent.com, and it actually gave me pause and eventually actually changed my stance on the matter. Of course, my previous position has always been that of a good libertarian, in that you can do whatever you want in private without harming anyone. But then, of course, I saw that the production as well as the consumption of pornography is harmful to both women and men, and obviously more so women. And porn producers, the people who are the behind the scenes doing pornography, filming it, definitely have a woman problem. So, and I worry that because tech is so ubiquitous right now, everyone has a phone, and I worry about how you give a kid a phone, and of course, as teenage boys, we have these urges, and they want to see women in little or no clothing, but then they are not prepared for how the increasingly extreme lengths that certain porn categories and subcategories would go through. Like they of course they would get the wrong impression that that is how sex works, and it's that's not good. But I wonder, have you had a, say, a more libertarian or more pro pornography consumption minded people come up to the show or ask you to debate with them about the matter?
I have talked to a lot of people who have a more libertarian approach to prostitution and pornography over the years. And I tend to disagree with them. And I tend to feel as though they misrepresent prostitution and pornography, but also that they misrepresent arguments against prostitution and pornography. Speaking for myself personally, I'm not advocating to ban pornography. As much as I would like for pornography not to exist, I
Mhm.
first of all think that's impossible. And second of all, that I think it would be unwise because I oppose censorship and I don't know where that would lead. Like I'm always asking people who do say we should ban pornography. I'm like, well, what specifically are we banning? Are we banning, sex acts on screen? Are we banning, paying people to portray sex acts on screen? Are we banning specific acts? Like I think everyone does, for the most part, know what pornography is.
Mhm.
You like that thing, like, when you see it, I can't remember who said it, was like a judge in some court case. It may have been part of the Dworkin McKinnon ordinance or something.
Um,
But anyway,
I'll know it when
is
I
that
see
true?
it,
Do you
right?
know?
Is that it?
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, like I think it's true, but in as far as legislation goes, you have to be more specific than that.
Mhm.
um, and And I think that ordinance that McKinnon and Dworkin put forward was actually quite good, because what they were trying to do was to enable women who'd been harmed in pornography to sue those who harmed them, who exploited them, to sue those pornographers. And I think that kind of thing would force pornographers to be more accountable. A main problem with pornography is exploitation, and the exploitation happens because people make billions of dollars off of pornography. So they can use a girl or a woman who's maybe desperate for income, or maybe doesn't know any better, or maybe at that point in her life thinks this would be a good idea. um, they can use her, and the industry can kind of chew her up and spit her out, and then they can profit from her image and continue to profit from her image for all of eternity. Doesn't matter what she feels about it, doesn't matter what she felt at the time. One of the things that angers me about men who watch pornography is that They don't know what they're watching.
Mhm.
They can tell themselves, oh, well, it's content sensual, so it's okay. And it's like, you don't know what's going on for this woman. I'm sure she's not enjoying herself. Most of the women in pornography are not enjoying themselves, they're
Yeah.
acting. Um, but they might feel like they might be being abused, they might be uncomfortable, they might be feeling pain. Um, a ton of people in pornography, not just the women, but the men also, are dealing with mental health problems and addiction. A lot of the women in pornography and, of course, in prostitution have histories of sexual abuse and molestation. They're not mentally healthy people. They're not, and to just say, oh, well, they consented, and to know nothing about her story or her context. Um, I think I think you're really lying to yourself. But yeah, I mean, the other issue, like there's so many different issues, and I find that often when libertarians approach the issues, they'll take that approach also. Well, adults can do whatever they want if there's consent. And it's like, yeah, adults can do whatever they want when there's consent. But I think that it's also important to have conversations about the broader implications and repercussions, of production and consumption, which are immense. Kids are growing up watching pornography and learning about sex through pornography. It's unavoidable at this point. In the past, boys would have to seek out, a magazine and go hide somewhere to look at it. Now, as you say, it's just on your phone, and you don't even have to look for it. It's just there.
Mhm.
It's impossible not to see pornography. I see pornography all the time, and I don't look for pornography, and I don't want to see pornography just because it's on Instagram or Twitter. Um, and it's gross, and it's been totally normalized. And I think it messes with people's brains.
Mhm.
I think it warps the way men see women and treat women and what they expect out of relationships and out of sexual relationships. I think it prevents intimacy. I think it breaks trust. I think that a lot of women feel not just upset, but quite traumatized by their partner's porn use, and then they're gaslit by their partners, and society around them, because they're told this is fine and this is normal and just a fantasy, and yet their partner is essentially engaging in sex acts on screen, not in real life, but still on screen with another woman. um and yeah, it's tough because there's no easy answer, and people want easy answers, and feminists want easy answers, and there aren't easy answers. It's a conversation that we should be having, and we should be having more honest conversations about it. And what I came to is I was like, haranguing people isn't going to help. Like telling men, you're a sexual abuser because you use pornography and you're misogynist and you're a bad man, that's not going to get through to most men. They're going to shut off and they're not going to listen, and they're going to think you're crazy. I want to actually get through to people. I want men to understand why pornography is harmful to them, to their partners, to their relationships, why it hurts women. And not all men are going to understand. There's going to be some assholes who just don't care.
Mhm.
They don't care how women feel. They don't care if that woman's being abused. They don't care how their partner feels. But at the end of the day, the way to make people understand is really through, having compassionate, open, honest conversations. Like that's the best way. I don't mean it's going to work on everybody. We're not going to always get our way. That's not how it goes. But that is what we have to do.
Mhm. What I what I learn over time is how deeply unsexy pornography is. Um, uh, I mean, if it is a fantasy, then it's a very poorly constructed one. It does not simulate sex. It does not initiate or inspire desire between men and women, or even men with men or women with women. It the way I see it, I mean, there's a difference between what's pornographic and what's erotic. What's erotic leaves a lot to the imagination, and what's pornographic, well, it isn't. I mean, we view, say, Botticelli's Venus and Marilyn Monroe differently than, say, I don't know, Mia Khalifa when we see whatever she's in now. And I wonder if you can give any insights on that. What makes something do you have that distinction between what's erotic and what's pornographic?
You know, I don't think I actually do have a very good definition of erotica versus pornography. And it's something that I should try to work on. I mean, it's something that I have thought about over the years, but I haven't been able to come up with a good way to differentiate really. But I agree with you. Like, I think that erotica can be really sexy and like I would never want to like full out cut sex scenes out of movies, for example, or TV or even music videos. Like,
Hmm.
I think that porn culture has obviously infiltrated all aspects of media, especially advertising and especially things like music videos and pop music. And of course, television and movies as well to a certain extent. And I think it's kind of the same thing. It's like see something and I can say, this is porny. This is pornographic imagery. And then I can see something and be like, this is sexy, this is erotica.
Hmm.
And could put into words what the difference is. I do feel like I know it when I see it though. But I agree with you, pornography isn't sexy. I find pornography disgusting. And I feel like that's sort of a hard thing to say in this day and age, because when you say that, people think that you're prude. They think that you're some kind of like Christian right winger and you hate sex.
Hmm.
Um, and they tell you that you hate sex because they label you anti-sex. And I'm not sex. I'm very pro-sex. I love sex. Um, and I and I think that because I like sex and it's important to me, that's why I'm so critical of pornography. And that's why I do hate strip clubs and prostitution and porn to a certain extent. There's lots of other reasons too, including the abuse that happens to the women in those industries. Um, but I think sex is a really important thing and a really intimate thing. And I don't like that it's been turned into this dehumanized thing that's like, it's just bodies, because it's not just bodies. It's totally about your relationship to that other person and about things like trust and about respect and about valuing the other person and caring about how the other person feels and what they want, and that you're not being watched. Like, to me, the idea, it's like, I like sex, so why would I want other people watching me? Why would I want to film it? Why would I want to turn it into a consumable product? I feel like that would totally ruin it. Like, I feel like if you're enjoying sex, it's because you're not thinking about being watched. And I feel so bad for young women and girls today, because I think that, and even women my age, just from talking to them, I know that they're thinking about how they look and they're acting out porny scenarios and they're thinking about how they like they really, they're seeing themselves as though they're in a porn movie and they're performing this, which would totally take away from your ability to feel pleasure. Um, and I think that's just sad. Like, I don't think you should be thinking about what you look like or whether you look like this girl in a porn movie, which isn't even real, and she's not enjoying herself and she probably feels uncomfortable and her back hurts and she's been doing this for how many more hours, like, the whole situation is just depressing to me. And yeah, girls are growing up in this culture where objectification is totally normal, and they think that in order to be attractive to boys, they have to objectify themselves publicly on social media and put these pornified, like hyper filtered, posed photos online, and then they get likes, and this is supposed to be where they get their self-confidence and validation from, which they won't. This isn't going to build self-confidence for them at all. There's a million ways in which this industry and this porn culture is harmful to men and women and boys and girls and society and relationships. And I think it's really sad and depressing.